When people think of Australian sports, football probably isn't the first game that comes to mind. Cricket, Australian rules football, rugby league, rugby union. These sports have dominated the headlines for generations. But hidden beneath their shadow is a remarkable story, one of resilience, immigration, heartbreak, and triumph. Today, Australia regularly competes on football's biggest stages, produces players for Europe's top clubs, and has one of the most passionate fan bases in Asia. But getting there wasn't easy. This is the incredible history of football in Australia. From British settlers kicking a ball around in the 1800s to the unforgettable penalty that sent the Socceroos back to the FIFA World Cup after 32 years, Australia's football journey is unlike any other. Let's travel through more than 140 years of Australian football history. Football first arrived in Australia during the late 19th century. British settlers, sailors, soldiers, and immigrants brought the game with them as they established communities across the continent. The earliest recorded matches were played in the 1880s, particularly in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. Schools, local clubs, and community organizations quickly embraced the sport. Although Australian rules football had already established itself in Victoria, and rugby was growing rapidly in New South Wales and Queensland, football steadily built its own following. By the early 1900s, organized competitions were taking place across several states, with local clubs attracting players from diverse backgrounds. The game was growing, but it still lacked a unified national identity. As football spread across Australia, administrators realized the sport needed stronger organization. State associations began working together to standardize competitions and promote the game nationwide. After World War II, Australia experienced a massive wave of immigration. Thousands of families arrived from countries like Italy, Greece, Croatia, Serbia, Malta, and the Netherlands. They didn't just bring their cultures. They brought their love for football. Across Australia, immigrant communities established clubs that became more than just sports teams. They became symbols of identity and belonging. Many of these clubs would later become giants of Australian football, helping the sport survive during some of its most difficult years. Without these passionate communities, Australian football might never have reached the heights it enjoys today. But as the sport continued to grow, it faced a new challenge. How could it unite fans from so many different backgrounds into one national football culture? By the 1970s, football had become one of Australia's most widely played participation sports. But there was still one major problem. Country's best clubs competed mostly in separate state competitions, making it difficult to create a truly national football culture. Everything changed in 1977 with the launch of the National Soccer League, or NSL. It was Australia's first nationwide professional football competition. For the first time, clubs from different states competed against one another on a regular basis. Teams such as South Melbourne, Sydney Olympic, Marconi Stallions, Adelaide City, and Melbourne Knights became some of the league's biggest names. The NSL represented a huge step forward, giving Australian players a professional pathway without having to leave the country. But while the football on the pitch improved, problems were brewing off it. Many NSL clubs were founded by immigrant communities and proudly reflected their cultural heritage. Greek, Croatian, Italian, Serbian, Macedonian, and other European communities rallied behind their teams with incredible passion. These clubs created vibrant atmospheres and kept Australian football alive through difficult years. However, the league also developed an image of being divided along ethnic lines. Some rivalries became deeply political and occasionally spilled beyond football, discouraging many neutral fans from embracing the sport. At the same time, football faced fierce competition from Australia's sporting giants. Australian rules football dominated in Victoria. Rugby league ruled New South Wales and Queensland. Cricket united the nation every summer. Finding television coverage, sponsorship, and mainstream attention remained an uphill battle. If club football was struggling, the national team faced even greater heartbreak. For decades, the Socceroos came painfully close to qualifying for the FIFA World Cup. Time and again, Australia's dreams ended in dramatic playoff defeats. Fans still remember heartbreaking losses to nations like Israel, Argentina, Iran, and Uruguay. Perhaps the most painful came in 1997 when Australia appeared destined for the 1998 FIFA World Cup. Leading Iran late in the decisive playoff, the Socceroos needed just a few more minutes to qualify. Instead, Iran scored twice and Australia was eliminated on away goals. The images of devastated players lying on the pitch became one of the saddest moments in Australian sporting history. But those years of disappointment were building towards something extraordinary. Australian football was about to reinvent itself and finally break its World Cup curse. November 16, 2005. For Australian football fans, it remains one of the greatest nights in the nation's sporting history. The Socceroos faced Uruguay in a two-legged playoff for a place at the 2006 FIFA World Cup. Australia had lost the first leg 1-0 in Montevideo. In Sydney, the Socceroos fought back to win 1-0, sending the tie to extra time and then penalties. Tens of thousands of fans inside Stadium Australia could barely watch. Then came the moment that changed Australian football forever. Goalkeeper Mark Schwarzer made two crucial saves in the shootout. Finally, defender John Aloisi stepped up and calmly buried the winning penalty. As the net rippled, Aloisi tore off his jersey and raced across the pitch in celebration, a moment that instantly became one of the most iconic images in Australian sporting history. After 32 years, Australia was finally back at the FIFA World Cup. But the transformation had actually begun a few months earlier. In 2005, Australian football authorities launched a brand new professional competition, the A-League. The new league replaced the struggling National Soccer League and introduced a fresh identity for the sport. Instead of clubs being closely tied to specific ethnic communities, the A-League focused on representing entire cities and regions. The goal was simple: make football a game that every Australian could embrace. The league also adopted stronger financial controls, modern marketing strategies, and family-friendly matchday experiences. Slowly, public interest began to grow. Another bold decision soon reshaped Australian football. For decades, Australia had competed in the Oceania Football Confederation, where it often dominated smaller island nations. But despite winning regional tournaments, World Cup qualification still required difficult intercontinental playoffs against stronger opponents. In 2006, Australia officially joined the Asian Football Confederation, or AFC. The move gave Australian clubs and national teams regular matches against football powerhouses like Japan, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. The higher level of competition accelerated the development of Australian players. That progress showed almost immediately. 2006 FIFA World Cup in Germany, the Socceroos reached the knockout stage for the first time in history. Although they were narrowly eliminated by eventual champions Italy after a controversial late penalty, Australia had finally proven it could compete with the world's best. The sleeping giant of Australian football had awakened. Australia's breakthrough at the 2006 FIFA World Cup wasn't the end of the journey. It was the beginning of a new era. The Socceroos became regular participants on football's biggest stage, qualifying for the FIFA World Cup in 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022, and 2026, making 6 consecutive appearances after ending their 32-year drought. The team also achieved another historic milestone in 2015, when Australia hosted and won the AFC Asian Cup. In a thrilling final at Sydney's Stadium Australia, the Socceroos defeated South Korea 2-1 after extra time to lift their first Asian title. For a country that had joined the Asian Football Confederation less than a decade earlier, it was a remarkable achievement. Players like Tim Cahill, Mark Viduka, Kewell, Mark Schwarzer, and Mile Jedinak became national heroes, inspiring thousands of young Australians to choose football. While the men's team continued to grow, Australia's women's national team, the Matildas, captured the hearts of the nation. Led by superstar striker Sam Kerr, the Matildas developed into one of the strongest teams in world football. Their fearless style of play, exciting attacking football, and unforgettable performances attracted record television audiences and packed stadiums. Then came the defining moment. In 2023, Australia co-hosted the FIFA Women's World Cup alongside New Zealand. The tournament became a cultural phenomenon. Millions of Australians tuned in as the Matildas reached the semi-finals for the first time in their history. Although they narrowly missed out on the final, the team's remarkable run united the country and inspired a new generation of girls and boys to dream of wearing the green and gold. For many, it was the moment football truly entered Australia's sporting mainstream. Today, Australian football is stronger than ever. The A-League continues to develop young talent, while Australian players are earning opportunities in Europe's top leagues and major competitions across Asia. Grassroots participation remains among the highest of any sport in the country, and modern academies are producing technically gifted players from increasingly diverse backgrounds. With continued investment in youth development, growing fan support, and successful men's and women's national teams, Australia is building a football culture that is stronger than ever before. The challenges haven't disappeared. Football still competes with cricket, rugby, and Australian rules football for attention. But it has secured its place as one of the country's major sports, and its momentum continues to grow. The history of football in Australia is a story of determination. From British settlers introducing the game in the 1800s to immigrant communities keeping it alive, from decades of heartbreaking World Cup failures to John Aloisi's unforgettable penalty, from the Socceroos' Asian Cup triumph to the Matildas inspiring an entire nation, Australian football has never stopped evolving. And with every generation, the game grows stronger. The next chapter may be the most exciting one yet. If you enjoyed this journey through the history of football in Australia, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments. Do you think Australia can become one of Asia's true football superpowers in the coming years? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.